Take a look at a person like Sudama. He had nothing going for him. He was a pauper, a total beggar. And yet within himself he felt complete sense of security, complete sense of self-sufficiency, where even when he was sent by his wife to meet Krishna, who was a king there, his dear friend, he didn't feel small. He didn't feel diffident. He went. And when the guards at the palace asked him, why have you come here? They were shooing him away. He said, I've come to meet my friend. Your friend? Who's your friend? They asked. He said, Krishna. And they burst out laughing. They said, you? How can Krishna be your friend? Just then, it appeared that Krishna was passing by in the palace and spotted him. He ran out to greet his dear friend. The point is, this sense of this difference, demarcation, distinctions are all things we feel because we are still children and we're still at the level of toys. So you look at a person's clothes, you look at the quality of the brand of the watch that a person wears or the car that he drives in or you drive in, and you believe that your value, your worth depends upon all these things. Gyani is one who has risen to a state where he considers all these exactly the same as you consider toys. That's how he's reached the state of samam, because of total self-sufficiency. Look at it this way. There's another way of understanding the same thing. Last night, when you went to sleep, you dreamt. And in the dream, you pictured various things, right? You had the similar experiences that you go through here. So let's say you were going to a wedding and everyone was coming in fancy clothes and fancy cars and this, that and the other, and you were going in a Santro. And you felt small and you felt diffident. Just then, something happens and you wake up. After having woken up, suppose you were to gain re-entry into the same dream, which is not possible, we're just picturing. We're theorizing about it. Suppose you were to re-enter the dream, would you feel inadequate? Would you feel small? How would you feel? You'll go through the whole dream, the whole wedding, the others' Mercedes and your Santro with this samadarshana, with this equality of vision. So when he says that a jnani is equal to earth, stone and gold, don't get strange ideas. It simply means that he has grown to appreciate things that are far more valuable than any of these. And that's what gives him this saman. And throughout the Gita, whether it is in chapter 2, 3, 4, right through, he maintains that a person who has reached this samam, saha vishishyate, such a person excels. Why does he say that? Because it's only when you have this samam, when your mind is calm, completely tranquil, it's unruffled by things of the world, that the best comes out of you, that you're able to come out with superlative performance. And that's why he says, saha vishishyate. So you must aspire to reach that state where you have this equality of vision towards everything that the world has to offer. Next verse, 9.
Surun mitraryudasena madhyastadvesha bandhushu sadhushvapi cha papeshu samabuddhir vishishyate.
Now he speaks of his state of samabuddhi, equality of vision, with reference to the world of beings. The earlier verse, 8, was with reference to the world of objects, earth, stone and gold. Now with reference to beings. So he says, Saha vishishyate, such a person excels, who views well-wishers, friends, adversaries, the unconcerned, the impartial, the hostile, saints and sinners alike. This is where we have a problem. The problem is not all this that he's talking about. The problem is, how do I view equally my mother and mother-in-law? How do I view equally my friend and my competitor, enemy? So he categorizes the whole of mankind into two broad categories. One, material, spiritual, and in each of them, good and bad. So such a person is equal to both a materialistic person who is good and bad and spiritual person who is good and bad. First, Surut, well-wisher, good-hearted person. Dvesha, hostile. So a well-wisher is one who has the potential to do good for you, but it is not necessarily manifested. Dvesha is a hostile, hateful person who has the potential to do harm to you. Very dangerous person. Mitra, friend, whose good wishes have manifested, is actually doing good to you. Arihi, adversary, enemy, who's doing hurt, who's hurting you. Udasina, unconcerned, indifferent. He may do good, may not do good. Madhyastha, neutral. Madhyastha literally means a person who's equal to both sides in a dispute. Impartial. Neither good nor bad. No use. Bandhu, relative, is one who, at least in those days, meant and did good. Nowadays you apply it whichever way you want. Then spiritual. Spiritual people, there are sadhus, saints, there are papis, sinners, righteous people, unrighteous people. Here is a person who views all these categories equally. How do you get to that state is the question. We are at such a precarious balances, one word here and there tilts the balance. So far you've been speaking well of a person, so oh, so-and-so is so sweet, so nice. Suddenly, one thing the person does to you, I hate him. Arey, what happened? Still yesterday you were saying good things about him. Yeah, I know, but he's changed. You don't realize he hasn't changed, you've changed. So our balance is precarious. That's why when you're dealing with other people, best is to remain neutral. So when somebody speaks good of a person, nod your head and say yes, yes, yes. When somebody speaks ill of a person, also nod your head and say yes, because you never know when it changes. Here is a person who maintains that equality. It's like children don't understand. There's sometimes a box of chocolates comes in different shapes, different sizes, different colored wrapping paper, but the children don't understand it's the same chocolate inside. And they squabble and they fight over, oh, I want the pink one and I want the red one and I want the blue one and this, that and the other. You as an adult understand they're all the same inside. After all, you're going to eat the chocolate, you're not eating the wrapper. This knowledge. So this equality of vision comes with the knowledge of the core of your being. Another very interesting example is biscuits. When, I don't know about now, but when we were young, they used to make biscuits in different shapes. There were lions and cats and dogs and all the same biscuit, the same flavor in different shapes. And I remember what wars we used to fight on having a particular shape, particular size. And the adult used to say, desperately trying to tell us, it's the same biscuit, it's only the shape that's different. But you don't understand. A child never understands. So it's the growth to a higher vision that gives you this equality, this samam. And this is something that first of all we need to understand, we must have, and there must be a concerted effort to get there. So how do you get to that understanding? You must understand people are essentially the same. Human beings are the same everywhere in the world. The only thing that differs is exposure is different, upbringing is different, thoughts are different, and therefore behavior is different. But if you set aside all this which is exactly like the wrapper of the chocolate, which is exactly like the shape and the form of the biscuit. The core of every human being is still the same. And it is this understanding that helps you to get this equality of vision. And a person who gets that equality of vision, in other words, a person who has the capacity to sieve through the negativities, to sieve through the qualities and zero in on the person. Oh, what returns, what rewards such a vision gives you. Because you understand the person. You see, the first thing you need to understand is everybody is imprisoned, bound by their own vasanas. Guna guneshu vartante, the 3rd chapter says. You have a certain vasana, means certain quality. You have been brought up in a particular way, crude or refined, whatever it is. You have certain basic tendencies, you have ego, you have all the rest of it. You find it difficult to change in spite of putting in effort. Many of us have put in effort for years and still you find very little change. And how can you expect a person who doesn't even know that there is scope for improvement, who feels he is the best? How can you expect him to change? He doesn't know it, he's not making an effort to change. So a jnani is one who instantly connects with atman in the person. Atman is that entity, that empowering factor in the person that enables him to behave in a stupid manner or in a wise manner. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference what the manifestation is. What matters is that there is Atman in that person. And the sight of that Atman, the manifestation of that Atman sends him into spurts of excitement and it doesn't make a difference what the manifestation is. Just as when you appreciate electricity, it doesn't matter whether it is a 0 candle power bulb or a flood bulb or a computer that's functioning or whatever it is. You understand it's electricity, and there is this contentment and happiness that all's well because electricity is functioning. So a jnani is one who understands, who has the capacity to zero in on Atman and disregard the wrapper of a chocolate. And that's what gives him this sama drishti, this equality of vision. And it is this equality of vision that gives him supreme peace, prashanta. And out of that supreme peace comes excellence. That's why he says, saha vishishyate. He excels, she excels. Why are you and I not excelling? Because we lack this vision, unfortunately. And yet, it is there for us to take. It's there for us to grab. It's there for us to aspire for. So the commitment to ourselves and say, yes, today I see differences. But someday I must reach that state where I'm able to zero in on Atman and disregard everything else. How do I get there? Do it in stages. When you identify with your body, you see maximum differences, you get maximum agitations. Because everyone is different. Shift your identification to your mind, and instantly there is this little oasis of oneness that you see where? Within your family. You see your husband, wife, children as one. Right? I hope you see at least that. You expand your vision and you identify with the intellect. Say you have an intellectual goal that I must work for this nation. I must work to build India, to improve the life of every single Indian. Then it doesn't make a difference to you who the Indian is, whether the fellow is a rich guy or a person on the streets. In fact, you feel more compassion, you feel more for a person who is deprived. As against that, you and I today are running after all the privileged class. That's why newspapers have what they call as, this happens only in India, page 3. This page 3 business started here because you have this weakness for people who are rich. Why? If you feel the same for Indians, then the differences dissolve immediately, like Gandhiji. And you experience that peace. You go one step beyond it. Identify with your own atman and you see zero differences. What a state that must be. Next verse.
Yogi yunjita satatam atmanam rahasi stitaha ekakiyata chittatma nirashira parigraha.
Now from 10 onwards he's getting into the details of meditation. The yogi, being alone in a secluded place, must constantly unite with the self, with mind and body subdued, free from desire and without possession. The first thing, so what he's saying is the preparation for meditation is to remove the disturbances. What are the disturbances? Number one, physical, from the world. So you have to get to a secluded place. You can't sit in Flora Fountain and meditate. You have to get to a secluded place where there are no disturbances from the world. Now if you say how can you get to that state in Bombay where 24 hours there is disturbance? It's not that. At least there is some time. Because 4 o'clock in the morning is an ideal time because the people have not woken up early enough and the late night revelers have gone to sleep. So 4 a.m. is a perfect time to get up and meditate. Then he says, the second thing is the mind. The mind has to be, he uses ekaki and rahasi. Rahasi is physical place must be silent. Ekaki, alone. Alone doesn't mean lonely. Ekaki means you must be detached from the world. See, because if you're sitting in meditation and you're full of attachments, what will you meditate upon? First thing in the morning you'll wake up and start meditating on your children, on your wealth, on whatever it is that you're attached to. So therefore, this detachment. You want to know what attachment is? You see, whatever you're attached to, is impossible not to think of that person. So the closest example I can think of to attachment is like having chewing gum in your hair. Try taking chewing gum out of your hair. If it gets there. It is impossible. However hard you try, you can't get that chewing gum out of your hair. The only way out is to cut it. Attachment is like that. Whatever you do, it's impossible to get out of the clutches of it because you've made the mistake of constantly thinking about that particular object or being. And therefore, even when you physically remove yourself, thoughts go. That's why they say to be detached, physical separation doesn't make any difference. What you have to do is divert the mind, distract the mind. Divert the mind to something higher, and once the mind gets attached to something higher, only then will it get detached from the lower. So therefore, cultivation of fine taste, refinement, the higher ideal in life is an absolute must before you get into meditation. You can't sit in meditation when you're constantly thinking of my babies. And how old are your babies? 23 and 35. Attachment to children never leaves you. Or you're thinking of my car. There are people who leave the car downstairs and they go up in a nice, plush, air-conditioned place. And they find it difficult to sleep because they are thinking somebody might come and take away the mirror. Somebody might come. First of all, you buy an expensive car. And then you end up worrying about what will happen to the car. So it's a lose-lose situation when you get attached. So number one, physically you have to be in a quiet place, alone. There can't be group meditation. Secondly, the mind must be detached from its preoccupations with the world. Then, senses and mind must be subdued both before you sit in meditation and in the seat of meditation. So while you're meditating, it's incredible how it happens. Because normally, when you are not sitting in meditation, you never think of these things. The moment you sit in meditation, the weirdest thoughts come to your mind. And it is this that he's talking about. Perhaps never do you think of whether the gas has been switched off or not. But you sit in meditation, first thing you'll think is gas. So that's why he's saying the senses and mind must be subdued before you sit in meditation and during meditation. So in fact, before you actually get into meditation, you are supposed to sit and watch the thoughts in your mind. So all the thoughts that come to your mind, say Shanti, 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 and let them dissolve, let them disappear. And only then do you actually give it a point of concentration. The intellect must be nirashi, free from desire. Again, before meditation and in the seat of meditation. See, before meditating, you have to make an attempt to reduce the stockpile of desires that you have, otherwise you can't. Just as an overloaded plane can't take off, a mind that is overloaded with desires can't take off into the subtler realms of meditation. But even after you've brought the desires down to a minimum, when you're sitting in the seat of meditation, the desire will come and disturb you, obstruct it. So temporarily you must set aside the desire and say, okay, I'll deal with you later. For the time being, leave me alone. Nirashi, not in the absolute sense, relatively. Temporarily you must be free from desire. Aparigraha means without possession. It doesn't mean without possession. It means having a dispossessive attitude towards your possessions. You can't be dispossessive. You can't be free from possession at all. Something or the other you'll possess in the world. So the Gita is not against possessions. Have what you want. But don't let that get stuck here. Possession should be outside. So when you have all these, your personality is fully prepared to sit in meditation. And the last thing is, yogi yunjita satatam. What motivates you, what drives you right through this experience is this mumukshatva, this constant, consistent application to reach that state of union with Atman. Yogi yunjita satatam. Constantly unite with the self. Why does he use the word constant? Throughout the Gita he uses it. Because it is only constancy of application that will get you anywhere. Even in a material accomplishment, things don't come overnight to you. You have to consistently make effort over a long period of time before you achieve success in the world. And in the spiritual world, of course it takes time to get to realization. But the fruits of introvertedness, the fruit of spirituality, the fruit of the endeavor that you're making right now comes almost instantly. You take, as they say, you take one step towards God and God takes 9 steps towards you. So rest assured that you will get the return, even though we started by saying don't look for a return. But there must be this constancy of application. And once you do this, all this, you're set, you're prepared for meditation. Next verse.
शुचौ देशे प्रतिष्ठाप्य स्थिरमासनमात्मनः नात्युच्छ्रितं नातिनीचं चैलाजिनकुशोत्तरम्.
Settled in a clean environment on one's own firm seat, not too high or too low, made of cloth, skin and kusha grass in layers. Now you'll see that he's coming down to absolute details of what material should the seat be made of and things like that. And you'll wonder, so there's a distinct change from the previous verse to here. Why does he do that? Because when you're launching on such an important project, you have to take care of every little detail. It is success lies in the details, not in the large picture. So, just as when a spacecraft, when you launch a spacecraft into space, every little detail is taken care of, right? And only then is the project successful. You miss out one little thing, as you've seen recently, and tragedy strikes. So therefore, shuchau deshe, seated first of all. He said, sthiram asanam atmanaha. You must have a firm seat of your own, because then there is least distraction. If every day you're meditating in a different place, by the time you get adjusted to it, your meditation is gone. So you must have your own seat, sthiram asanam. It has to be firm. Na ati uchritam, na ati nicham. Not too high. If it's high, you're sitting on a pedestal 10 feet above, chances are you'll fall off. If it's too low, then moist